Okay, I will edit this on the front end and go from there. Okay. This is Alan Karpick with goldenblack.com's football beat writer extraordinaire, Tom Dienhart, who is very skilled at talking about upcoming games and gets a lot of requests, especially this week as the Boilermakers take on Penn State on Thursday night. And we have a new feature for you, and it's going to be a midweek feature during the year. It's going to be run, obviously, tonight, Tuesday night. Whether we'll stick to that night, but it'll be a Tuesday or Wednesday night feature when we have normal Saturday games. And, of course, it's brought to you by nobody else but AcrePro, the AcrePro Midwest Farm Group. And they are your local farmland specialists with decades of experience in Indiana agriculture. No one knows the market better. Whether you're doing a 1031 exchange or simply buying and selling farmland. I don't know, Tom, if you're doing a 1031 exchange soon, but some of our listeners and readers will be. And your local AcrePro agent will walk the land with you and ensure the deal is done right. And we appreciate Kyle Spray and his group for their sponsorship. Make sure you visit acrepro.com or call 765-587-3185 and talk to your local land expert today. Again, that's 765-873-185. And Tom, it's buy-sell time. And it's game week time, and that's probably the biggest story leading into Thursday night's game. But you look at a game like this, and there's some guys we've talked a lot about, Aiden O'Connell and his importance. But let's talk about some other guys that we're going to see that you're excited about. That if you're going to put in that proverbial byline, if you're Purdue, is that who are some of the, maybe list 2 or 3 guys that you say, boy, they're going to have big numbers if you're playing fantasy football. Mm-hmm. Or that type of endeavor. Who should you be looking at this week?
Well, I'm draped in velvet, Alan, sitting in my ski lodge.
Yeah,
talk some Boiler football. And I tell you what, the first guy I'm buying is Charlie Jones.
Okay.
Of course, he's been well publicized throughout training camp. The Iowa transfer receiver. You hate to hype somebody up too much, Alan, but boy, I'm excited to see this guy. That the coaching staff's had a lot of praise for him. His teammates have had a lot of praise for him. This guy could be electric. He could be Purdue's #1 receiver, and they need an alpha wideout to step up with Milton Wright and David Bell both gone. So, Alan, Charlie Jones, his return skills are well documented, of course. The best return man in the Big Ten last year. But Charlie Jones came to Purdue not just to run back punts and kickoffs. He came to Purdue specifically to play in this offense and to catch passes. So he wants to be featured, and he's got the skill set too. He's got the motivation too as well. So that's a guy I'm certainly going to watch on the offensive side of the ball as well, Alan. Maybe not to as great a degree, but his Iowa transfer teammate, Tyrone Tracy. And the word or the name Deebo Samuel has been used when talking about Tyrone Tracy. And again, I'm not saying Tyrone Tracy's Deebo Samuel. Those words came from Tyrone Tracy and Garrett McGee, the receivers coach. I think Tyrone Tracy is going to be used like the 49ers used Deebo Samuel, as a pass catcher and as a guy who carries the ball. So he's going to be very involved. And Alan, I think if Purdue's going to be as good as it wants to be on offense, he's going to have to be everything and that when it comes to being a guy who can really affect games in multiple levels. And, I guess defensively, I'll give you one guy before I hand it off back over to you. But I think another newcomer, Scotty Humpich, the Murray State transfer, the Leo, he's a guy I think that can help Purdue fill that pass rushing void that's been created by George Karlaftis, of course, leaving to the NFL a year early. The easiest comparable is for Boilermaker fans of a little bit of age is Rob Ninkovich. This guy looks the part, great body, great motor. He looked good in the spring. He's looked good in camp. He's probably not going to start. I think Kydron Jenkins will start at Leo, but I think a guy like Scotty Humpich maybe before we get to October, who knows, maybe he's the starting Leo, but he's a guy I think that can really help him out when it comes to rushing the passer this year.
Yeah, well put. You know, in your 4 years, and it may seem like 20, but your 4 years as being with us at goldenblack.com, you are usually right when you target a guy that you think is gonna go big for the Boilermakers. It'll be interesting to see. Could Purdue have its first punt return for a touchdown since Aaron Valentine? I know you schooled me on that. I thought it was Anthony Chambers. It was Aaron Valentine back in 2009, the old number 17. That will be an interesting statistic. I don't know. I'm fascinated. You've seen Charlie Jones play a lot more than I have, obviously, in practice. He's got a little Vinny Sutherland type qualities, maybe just that extra little bit of burst, maybe not as fast as Vinny. A few guys were, but he's fast. And
you know what, down too, he's fearless.
Yeah.
And he wants to make plays. Jeff Brohm's not always comfortable with guys in the return game taking chances. He wants you to secure the ball, maintain field position, and don't turn it over. But he understands Charlie Jones is too good of a weapon to put a harness on. He's been given the green light to return every punt he can so he can make a play and Allen maybe win a game for you this year too.
You know, Jeff Brohm, we've talked about that in terms of guys, and maybe I don't know that he's evolved necessarily as a head coach in the years that you've watched him. And of course, you've been around Purdue football even prior to long before Jeff Brohm got here, but a guy that seems to be more comfortable with letting guys make plays. And I guess that would be my buy is Jeff Brohm's ability not only to have transfers make impact, which he's certainly benefited from that, dating back several years, and yet also the ability to let guys make plays, let his playmaker make plays. Do you buy that as well?
I do. He's a problem solver. I think he's pretty smart from an offensive standpoint, Alan, when it comes to game planning and making adjustments and trying to find matchups that he can exploit. We've seen that body work for 5 years now. I think he does have some really good coaching chops. Alan, I don't want to get up on a tangent here, but I wrote something last week just about Jeff Brohm's legacy already at Purdue and what he's accomplished in 5 years. I mean, I don't want to overstate it, but I think it's been a pretty remarkable job considering what he walked into in 2017, where the program is at now going into year 6. You got to be a pretty good coach to do that. It's been a big reclamation project, and that's all at his feet. He's done a real good job giving this program an identity. It's an identity that Purdue fans are familiar with. Throwing the football, building around your quarterback, having exciting offensive-oriented football. And again, he's going to find he's not going to ask his guys to do things they can't do. And no smart coach is going to force guys into their system. You got to look at your personnel, assess what their strengths are, and try to build a playbook and a scheme that's going to accentuate their skill set and their strengths. Now, I think Jeff Brohm, for the most part, has done a pretty good job doing that on that offensive side of the ball.
Well, when you think about Jeff Brohm and what he inherited when he took that job in December 5th, 2016, I think my over-under in my own mind's eye for 5 years would have been about 20, 21 wins if you could get to that level. Yes, he's still a game, I think, under 500 as the Boilermaker head football coach. But I would agree with you that it's hard to minimize the job he's done of turning things around. And the other thing, Tom, is that, is what we saw in 2015 and 2016 in terms of fans in the stands. Under 10,000 fans, if you did a scan count for the Purdue Northwestern game, I believe in 2016. I could be wrong on the exact game date, but my point is it'll be shoulder to shoulder in Ross-Ade Stadium, not only for Purdue Penn State, but you start to look at the way that fans came back last year. They're energized and they're ready to go. It's going to be a great environment in Ross-Ade, and Jeff Brohm has brought that to Purdue football, and that is hard to literally put a price tag on in terms of what he's done. All right, selling wise, what, if you're going to look at a situation where Purdue, maybe look at it from a standpoint of what area does Purdue maybe has some concerns in, it's going to have to do the job, not only against Penn State, but to have a season that could get Purdue to 7, 8, 9 wins by the time we get to the end of November.
We all know the issues with running the football. If you look at the stats, Alan, They've been last in the Big Ten East the last 3 years. In spite of that, they've had some success, of course, last year winning 9 games. It's always going to be a struggle to have a prolific running attack at Purdue. And that's not Jeff Brohm's goal anyway. He wants to run the ball effectively enough in down and distance situations, and also to keep defenses on their heels to a degree, keep them guessing to open some room for that passing game. But the biggest Achilles heel, the thing I would sell, is Purdue trying to run the football 3rd and short, 4th and 1 in the red zone, Alan, when everybody in the stadium knows you're probably going to run the football. You need 1 yard. Can you line up and get 1 yard, impose your will on that defense, get physical, muscle up, move the chains, or get across the goal line into pay dirt? Again, the stats last year for that situation were abysmal. I think there's more optimism with the offensive line this year, Alan. There's 8 legit linemen. I think they really are comfortable playing. They have a little bit more quality depth. The running back unit remains largely the same, just a blue-collar group, not going to keep you awake at night, but they can move the chains. King Daru, Dylan Downing, Kobe Lewis, and even Devin Mockabee. So they're guys that can get the job done. There's not a lot of flash. There's more bash. But again, it's going to be more incumbent on that offensive line showing an ability, like I said, to get physical, to push the pile, to move the defense off the line, and try to get that tough 1 or 2 yards. You're always going to need every game, Alan. It's Big Ten football, right? There's always going to be a few moments in every game this year where you're going to have to play Big Ten, big boy football, get tough, get physical, get a yard on the ground, and Purdue do it.
All right, and I'm going to take liberties with my sell, and that would be James Franklin, and not because I think he's going to lose his job. I'm not saying that. I really like James Franklin as a personality. I think whether he's long term for Penn State, he is contractually, as we know. But I think the fact that he's mentioned it, I think in every press conference, including this week's, that, by the way, the Nittany Lions have started on the road 12 of the last 13 years, and they're going to do it again on Thursday night. Now, he said he likes the Thursday night game because it gives him a little bit more practice time on the front end. Yeah. But I'm going to sell that notion. Purdue needs to just come in there and square it up against, as you mentioned many times this week and before, about it being a blue blood program. Penn State is that in football. It has the ability to line up and play with just about everybody, but they've struggled the last 2 years. So it'll be interesting to see if Purdue has to hope that it's a sell a little bit, that Penn State is still kind of struggling to get its identity to where it wants to be. That will be an interesting storyline as well, because my feeling is in this game on Thursday night, Purdue's got to hit them quick. They got to take advantage of the environment and establish themselves as giving itself the upper hand, I think, to get the job done. I'll give you the last word on that.
Yeah, you're right. Just some very interesting matchups, Alan, and each team's got a 6-year quarterback too, Sean Clifford and then Aiden O'Connell. So it's going to be a fun chess match against 2 experienced quarterbacks. Who can make the most plays and who can, and which defense Alan cannot give up the big play, I think. And you know what? This thing, while we focus on the quarterbacks and the passing game and the receivers, this thing could come down to who can run the football best, Alan, because we just talked about Purdue's issues to run consistently. Penn State was very atrocious at running the football last year too. Very unlike Penn State.
Very much, yeah.
They really struggle on their offensive line as well. They got some freshman running backs they're excited about. Alan, I can't remember the exact stat, but I know for sure Penn State last year did not have a 100-yard rusher in any game. And that was the first time that had happened at Penn State in years. So again, I think they want to make a concerted effort to be a team that can run the football. That's always been their roots, right? And boy, Alan, if they're running the football, Sean Clifford has play action with some of those receivers like Parker Washington. It could be a long day for the Purdue defense. So, you know what? I think if you're Purdue, you have to try to still make Sean Clifford pass to try to beat you, even though he is a veteran. You cannot let Penn State run the ball. I think you have to commit to trying to stop that run early, get them in, disadvantageous situations from a down and distance standpoint, try to dial up the pressure, get sacks, get some big plays, and like you said, get that crowd excited and motivated, jump on these guys early and try to take control of the game in the first half.
All right, as we make our way to a Thursday night, and Tom will write on the site this week about the great season openers and early season games for the Boilermakers dating back to 2000. This is going to be a rare environment. We saw it in 2018 with Northwestern coming to town. That type of season opener, Thursday night, Labor Day weekend type of event. Purdue will be hoping for a different outcome, but it's going to be quite the environment in Ross-Ade Stadium. And we, like I said, we'll look forward to, we'll talk this one to death before we get they actually tee it up at 8 p.m. on Thursday night. Okay, I want to thank our friends, our new friends at AcrePro Midwest Farm Group and Kyle Spray and company. We appreciate them. Visit acrepro.com or call 765-587-3185. By the end of the year, I'll have that memorized. It'll be forever in my brain. And you can talk to your local land expert today. That number again, 765-587-3185. Thanks again, Tom. We look forward to actually teeing it up and seeing what we see on Thursday night. Have a great rest of your evening, all.